is the difference after all? You've probably heard in the news recently. I think there's been a few articles, a few things in the news about Medicaid. Ari, don't you agree? We've got Ari from Chapter Medicare here. My name is Ed Weir, and yeah, I think Medicaid, Medicare, all that stuff is in the news.
Well, they're both in the news,
Yeah.
as your viewers are pointing out in the comments. And it's great to be with you again, Dr. Ed.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Yeah, everybody loves when you join us. I think it's so they don't have to stare at my face for an hour. They get someone else, yeah, better looking to stare at. So it's a beautiful thing.
I did get a haircut for your audience.
All right. So, what is the difference between Medicare and Medicaid and Advantage and supplements? And what is all this and about the news about cutting Medicare? And now the new thing out is cutting Medicaid. And the brand new thing out is come out probably in the next 24, 48 hours, as if there's also some possible cuts to Medicare. Okay, so Ari, you want to give us the scoop on what the difference is between Medicare, Medicaid, and who can get Medicare versus Medicaid?
Yes. So Medicaid is for Americans who are below a certain income threshold. Medicare is commonly for seniors. It's for Americans who are typically 65 or up. And we'll get into the nitty gritty of how to apply for Medicare when you're approaching your 65th birthday. But there is another way that you can get Medicare, and that is by way of disability. So if you have received cash disability benefits for 24 months or more, that is an alternate way of qualifying for Medicare. And there are also a couple of very serious illnesses that would qualify one for Medicare, including end-stage renal disease and Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yeah, my regular viewers know this, but we've got finally got my website is up. It's a work in progress, getting the videos there. But yeah, if you go into my website at mygovexpert.gov, or excuse me, mygovexpert.com, it's not gov, it's not cov, mygovexpert.com. It's a private site. I'm no longer affiliated with the Social Security Administration. I retired from there. But it gives you all of the details about Medicare, Medicaid, supplements, Part D, IRMA, all the rest of it. And he had just mentioned, yeah, there's two things there. You can get it anytime at any age if you have ESRD and Lou Gehrig's disease. I think those particular diseases, those disabilities, had some politicians that yeah, kind of push these special considerations for those two conditions. And I wish they had done them for all of them, getting Medicare quicker and all the rest of it. But that's the job we have to continue, right?
That's right. End-stage renal disease was set up as an alternate way to qualify for Medicare in the early 1970s, bipartisan agreement between the Nixon administration and Congress. Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. Yeah, yeah. And considering, yeah, Johnson just started Medicare back in 1965. So some changes pretty quick. All right. So Medicare, yeah. So you sign up through Medicare through the Social Security Administration, Part A, Part B, and then there's all the rest of it. Because Part A and Part B is awesome, and obviously it could get better. Part A covers your hospitalization. That's zero premium per month. Part B covers your doctors. And that is this year's $185 per month. There's big gaps in there. There's 6 big gaps to original Medicare, the biggest being the Part B coinsurance. So if you go to the doctor and get a $100,000 Band-Aid, you have to pay $20,000 out of your pocket. So people get either a Medicare Advantage plan or a Medicare supplement plan. So you want to go into a quick the differences between supplements and Advantage?
Yes. As you mentioned, Part A and Part B come directly from the government. Best way to apply is through your online Social Security account portal. It's fast, safe, and secure, and that's the fastest way to activate your Medicare. It's not calling the Social Security Administration. You're going to wait on hold for hours, and they won't help you over the phone apply. They'll set a callback appointment. So you definitely want to do it through your online Social Security account portal. Now, what people are surprised to learn is if they just have Medicare Part A and Medicare Part B, they don't have comprehensive insurance, because original Medicare only covers 80% of your medical expenses. The other 20% you owe out of pocket. So Dr. Ed mentioned a $100,000 Band-Aid. Let's talk about a $50,000 knee replacement. You would still owe $10,000 for the knee if you just had original Medicare. So that's why people consider some type of additional coverage. Two options here: Medigap, which sits on top of original Medicare and covers the 20% you'd otherwise owe out of pocket. It's also known as Medicare Supplement. The second option is Medicare Advantage. Medicare Advantage is what you commonly see advertised on television. You could pick your favorite Medicare Advantage spokesperson: Joe Namath, William Shatner, Jimmy Walker. The list goes on.
Yep.
This is a replacement for original Medicare administered by a private insurance company. It's managed care. Here's where we get into the world of HMO and PPO network restrictions, unlike original Medicare, which is networkless. This is also where we get into the world of prior authorizations. And in 2023 alone, there were over 50 million prior authorization requests to these private insurance companies under their managed Medicare plans. So definitely something to consider. And you can only choose one or the other. It's either Medigap or Medicare Advantage. You can't have both.
But if you get a Medicare supplement plan, then you also have to get a prescription drug plan, because the Medicare Advantage, most of those come bundled with the prescription drug plan in them. But with the Medicare supplement plan, you also have to get the Part D plan. And a lot of people, I'm seeing way too many people, I'm sure Ari, you as well, that have someone help them get a Medicare supplement plan. And then the agent, Medicare insurance agent, says, hey, let's also find you a prescription drug plan. And the people say, oh, I don't take drugs. And the agent says, okay, bye. And then when they do sign up for it, then they're penalized. So I'm seeing that way too often.
That's absolutely right. If you go with Medigap, then you want to add a standalone prescription drug plan. Now, these are two separate coverages. So you apply for your Medigap plan and you separately apply for a standalone prescription drug plan. If you go with Medicare Advantage, then most Medicare Advantage plans come bundled with prescription drug coverage. So just something to keep in mind. If you go with Medigap, it's a la carte to add the standalone prescription drug plan.
Perfect. All right, let's we'll continue talking about the differences, but we'll throw in some questions as well. Maria asks, why do you have to pay Part B of Medicare, and what can you do? Yeah, it's like, wait a second, I paid for Medicare for decades through FICA. So when you pay your FICA tax, your friend and your on your check stub for all those decades, and it's like, who is this FICA person? I've never met this FICA person. It's basically Social Security 6.2% and Medicare 1.45%, and then your employer pays the other part. But yeah, you pay Medicare for decades, and then when you actually sign up for Medicare, you have to pay it again, $185. The Part A is zero premium for most people, but the Part B is $185. What's the deal with that, Ari?
So your Medicare payroll tax is going towards the Medicare Part A trust fund. There are three parts to Medicare. There's hospital insurance. That's what your federal payroll tax is going towards. Then there's Medicare Part B. That's everything outside the hospital. That's what your Medicare Part B premium is going towards. That's why it's $185 per month for this year. And then finally, there's Medicare Part D. And as Dr. Ed mentioned, some people are surprised to learn about Medicare Part D. This is the drug benefit. But if you don't sign up for it, then you would owe a Part D late enrollment penalty unless you have drug coverage at least as good as what you would have received through Medicare.
Yeah, and that was a big issue, the Part D this last year during, was it October, November, December, that the CMS came in and they said, hey, a lot of these private drug plans are not creditable coverage anymore. And then everybody freaked out and said, what are we going to do? And then they kind of kicked the can down the road. And so, yeah, and I think there's going to be a lot happening this year too. So it looks like we got a questions about Medicare being cut. So we see that there, hundreds of billions of dollars being cut from Medicaid. And I did a video on this a little while ago that's also for a lot of people, cutting Medicaid is also cutting Medicare, which is also cutting your Social Security benefits. And people say, no, everybody said they're not touching Social Security or Medicare. Well, not directly, but behind the scenes, there's millions of people that receive what's called a Medicare savings program. They sign up for Medicaid, and they get these particular levels, QMB, Slim B, QI, and the state pays for their Part B premium, that $185. Okay.
Right.
Once those people get kicked off of Medicaid, they lose a lot of coverage, healthcare, and they also lose that $185. So essentially, their check is going to be reduced by $185 a month. And these people, because they, were on Medicaid, they're obviously low income, low resources. To take another $185 hit is very, very difficult. And people on dual eligible plans also get those grocery cards, which Ari and I hate those companies out there advertise them in YouTube and Facebook and TikTok, but because they advertise them in a really scammy way, but they do exist. And a lot of people are dependent on those, $100, $200 a month, and they lose that as well. And unfortunately, I've seen this personally working at the Social Security Administration. People come in and then say, hey, I just can't afford the $185. And they say, I'm not sick right now, so I'll just go ahead and stop it. And we say, yes, we're not sick right now. But that could all change tomorrow, fall down, get in an accident or something like that. But people said, yeah, I just have to take the chance. And so they stop Part B because they can't afford the $185. So it's unfortunate. And they're talking about through the.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I know we mentioned this on every video, but Medicaid goes by different names depending on the state that you live in. And this is so important. So here in Arizona, it's called Access. In Alaska, it's called Denali Care. And it just depends on the state you live in, what your Medicaid program is called. And if you lose Medicaid, you can appeal that decision. And you can lose Medicaid for a reason as simple as moving. If you don't update your address timely, you might lose Medicaid, even if your income hasn't changed. And so in those situations, you would certainly want to reapply to see if you can reestablish your Medicaid eligibility.
Yeah, the on my website, I'll pop it up there. If you go into it, click on Medicare, click on the far right one, it says Medicaid, and then it tells you what Medicaid, and it says, hey, I lost my Medicaid, and it gives you an idea of what to do. You can appeal your Medicaid, and I'm adding a little bit more to that little section because before I worked for Social Security Administration, I worked for the Department of Social Services doing Medicaid. So I'm going to add some more information on that. I wonder if they're going to change the name to Alaska Medicaid from Denali Care to McKinley Care, since there's trying to change the mountain.
You've been
too,
workshopping
right?
that joke for me. One more thing on this point. Even if you earn too much to qualify for Medicaid, let's say your Social Security check is a tad too high, you still might qualify for Part D extra help. Part D extra help is administered through the Social Security Administration, and Dr. Ed's website has information about this too. And so even if your income is too high to qualify for help with your Medicaid, or even if it's too high to qualify for Medicaid, you still might want to apply for Part D extra help. And this can provide substantial savings. The Social Security Administration estimates it's over $5,000 per year in savings if you're on expensive medications.
And it's one of the easiest applications to do at Social Security. You can do it online, you can do it over the phone.